Welcome to this video for the round 8 game of the candidates tournament between Peter Svidler and Sergei Karjakin. Here we're starting the second turn of the tournament, and it starts with all the Russian games, Russians against Russians, the first couple of rounds, just to make sure that there is no pure Russian matchup in the last round. Okay, Svidler Karjakin. Svidler is on 50% and still retains some chances to do something in the tournament, while Karjakin is on -2 and basically out of it. He has lost 2 games, won no game, and it's really not looking too great. So let's see how this game went. Svidler, knight f3, yeah, he's really varying things. He had played e4 earlier, he has played c4, and now knight f3. And g3, interesting choice. Just, let's say, just playing chess, not going for any deep theoretical preparation. Yeah, Karjakin had played the Berlin before, so knight f3 and g3 is sort of an anti-Berlin opening. Okay, we see that Karjakin is playing it in very classical fashion against this King's Fianchetto. He's ready to enter Catalan, for example, if white now goes for c4, castles d4, we enter mainline Catalan, which would actually be my choice in this position. I play this myself as white, this early Fianchetto, and normally I go for c4 here. But Svidler plays d3, interesting, going for a King's Indian attack. And after c5, which is a very normal reply, he came up with a very interesting move that I actually never saw before here. And I had a look in the database. There's only one example for this move. He's playing e4 here. Quite surprising, just e4. At first it looks like it just blunders a pawn, but it seems that things are not so clear at all. And this is quite an interesting concept. Let's check what happens if black takes, of course. Karjakin didn't take, he played knight c6, but let's see what happens. Yeah, white just recaptures, and here you can debate how should black take the pawn. Should you lure the rook to d1, or should you allow white to take and transfer this bishop to d8? Let's just, for argument's sake, look at this position with the pawn grab. Yeah, I think white retains quite interesting play here with knight e5. That's the idea. The knight now here is attacked, and it's a bit awkward how to play now. Maybe knight d6 is right, and then knight a3 can be an idea, intending to get to c4. This bishop is just an amazingly good piece on g2. It seems that this is pretty decent compensation. I mean, Houdini, for example, if you give it to the engine, it gives e4 as just a normal move with 0-0 something. It's quite remarkable. But it only has been played very rarely between human players. Just one game I found. And it is really an important nuance that you can play e4 without knight bd2. Knight bd2 is the overwhelmingly popular move here, but I'll show you what's the difference. Knight c6 and now queen e2. This is an interesting point. Black plays just the normal moves, and now white has the move c4 at his disposal. And this is a huge difference to the situation with the knight on d2. Here white can put the pawn on c4, and if black now should decide to take, then you actually have c3 for your knight. It's a much better square, obviously, than d2. Yeah, this setup with c4 is a very interesting one in the King's Indian attack, as it somehow hampers black's counterplay on the queen side. In the normal King's Indian attack, without this, very often you get this type of position. This is actually a rather stupid move. Come on, let's do that. g5 is a possibility, but I just want to show you the general setup. Something like that, and black just advances on the queen side at the fastest possible speed. With the c4 move, however, inserted, this takes lots of time. You need to prepare b5 here. And yeah, maybe white even can play knight c3 later to put more pressure on d5. A very interesting setup. And this is very interesting in relation to this e4 move, as it seems to be possible to play like that, even from the King's Indian attack move order with knight f3 and g3. Normally, this position here with c4 only arises from 1 e4, 1 e6, the French defense, or from the Sicilians with an early e6. So an interesting move order wrinkle for people who like the flank openings. This can be an interesting device that Svidler has played here. Okay, d4 played by Karjakin, which really surprised me. This move has a very dodgy reputation, because it opens up the long diagonal, and it's not really in any way helpful to black. But Karjakin has a very interesting idea connected to the move, and in fact it's quite interesting. Let's see, h4 and king h8. This is the interesting idea. In fact, the next move is the real point of it. King h8 has a very concrete idea, and we'll see now after bishop f4, which is very normal. Karjakin played the move f5, and this is the point of king h8, because if white now would capture on f6, black has the very strong reply g takes f6. Yeah, simply because queen e6, which would have been a check if the king would have been on g8, is just really awful because of that move. Simply queen d5, knight d3, and black is almost winning. Yeah, maybe he is even winning here. That's too much, really. Terrible position. Yeah, white cannot grab on e6. That's impossible. And if you cannot grab on e6, then the capture is completely out of it, because e5 is coming. And black has a big center, and white has no compensation whatsoever for that. So you cannot take. And this means black has accomplished to play f5, which in itself is not so spectacular, but it really makes this position playable. If black is not able to do something like that, he will very much, quite often, will be run over on the king side. If he plays slow moves like that, for example, you very often get hit by these kind of attacks, and it's super dangerous, really. But this is a good idea. It controls those important squares and makes kingside's attack much harder to play. Okay. Knight g5 by Svidler. This is the normal move, I guess, intending queen to h5. It forces black to capture, to white recaptured. Yeah, and here we see a very important moment of the game, where Karjakin plays the move queen c7. And here we can see a difference maybe between an absolute world-class player and just a strong grandmaster. I found a game from the early 80s where black, a player called Gregorian, yeah, there are many Gregorians, hard to tell which one. He's got 2450 ELO rating in 1980. This was very high. I mean, even today it's a decent rating, but a decent player. And this guy played a5 in a game against Kuzmin, later grandmaster. And this is in fact a huge mistake, because white now can capture on c6, b takes, and g6, and this is exceptionally strong. White is almost winning in this position, because the queen side is completely sealed now. Or sealed is the wrong word, it's frozen. Black hasn't got any counterplay. He's got a dead bishop on c8. This bishop is completely out of the game, and after this white will get an almost decisive attack on the king. This is really a winning position. If you give it to a computer, it is on +2, and it's only rising from that. It's just dead, and it can happen very easily in this position to get to a hopeless situation. a5 is just terrible, really, but Karjakin is preventing that. He plays queen c7, so that if white could capture now, he can really take with the queen and even be ready for counterplay. Another interesting move was knight e7, but okay, this queen move is perfectly okay. It also increases the pressure on e5, of course. Yeah, now Svidler plays it interestingly. He didn't need to do that, but I think it's an interesting move. He played g6, sacrificing a pawn. Yeah, black needs to take it. There is no choice. Something like that is just so inviting for a later sacrifice that you really shouldn't play that. So the capture is right. Knight d2 and king g8. Yeah, this is probably necessary at some point, getting out of the h file. Yeah, can black take on e5? Yeah, this is not possible very easily. And after this, there is this pin. So black cannot take. And yeah, king g8, as mentioned, was played, and this is just a good prophylactic move that you need to do anyway. Knight f3, heading to this square. And black gets into defensive mode, covering the important h7 square. Yeah, if white now would have given really lots of time, he would just like double, triple on the h file and deliver checkmate. But it's not that easy. It's not really possible to get there really quickly. And black always has this possibility to play the knight over to f7 to exchange this attacking piece on g5. There are many ways that white can try now to increase the attack. What Svidler did is, I think, okay. He played g4, not the only move, but it was okay. Knight d8 and king h2. This was his idea. He wanted to get the king even at some lines. To you can get sometimes the king here, or you can now use the g file as well. Yeah, bishop d7 played, and here we captured on g5. Yeah, this is I guess okay, but it needs to be followed up correctly. We see that after the recapture by the e-pawn, which is very logical. Black has all pieces geared towards this blockading square.
Check.
Yeah, we got this played. Bishop c6, queen f3, and rook d8. All this is really, I guess, quite logical and looks like a good play. Rook e1 and queen d7. Now intensifying the pressure on d5. Yeah, and I think now, in fact, here this position, Svidler makes a mistake, I believe at least. He takes on e6 with the bishop, and after that I think black is somewhat better. He could also have taken with the knight, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, knight takes. And here the interesting point is that white can still take here. It's not necessary now to capture on c6 or e6. You can take on g6, and as it is so often, there's a tactical justification. The only critical move now is, of course, now the capture. And what now exactly? White has a strong move here. He's got queen to h5, and this is the point that you needed to see beforehand. Now knight f4 even loses to this capture. It's quite easy. Rook g1 is deadly after that. So you cannot really capture. Black must play a defensive move here. Something like yeah, rook on the 7th makes lots of sense. What was my line? Let me check. Rook d7. And yeah, here white has more than one possibility. Can go bishop to h6. And if you want, you can also play this move, intending mate and attacking the rook. The funny thing is that after rook h6, black can play the cute move queen g2 check, king takes check. And here black preserves an extra pawn, but white has I think by far enough activity to be okay in this position. Just for example, a line like that: rook h6, king g7, rook e2 h1, 7 and f4. White is not ever going to lose this position. He's just far too active. I'm not sure even if I would maybe even prefer to be white here. Probably it's a draw, but white has no problems whatsoever. It's just a sample line. There are many there are ways to deviate from that, but I think this was better to break through here on g6. Maybe he misjudged some position here, I don't know. Or maybe he thought a draw is not enough. Also possible that he wanted to try to win by at all costs. It's understandable. I mean, you need to win games in this tournament, and Svidler has won already 2 games. He also lost 2. Played very entertaining chess. But okay, I think what he's doing is not really... I think it's pretty clear quickly that you cannot play for a win with that, and therefore the other line I think was really better. Takes, queen g3, the queen was attacked. And now rook c8, which is a pretty good move, rook c8. Good prophylactic move that just goes out of possible attacks by the bishop popping up on g5. Yeah, now knight h3 played by Svidler, attacking here on g6 and queen to f7. Yeah, and it's already, I think, pretty clear that white will not get a decisive attack here. This is just, these pieces are just too strong in blockading, and black also relatively quickly can always secure his king. Yeah, what are possible moves here? Yeah, queen g6. Yeah, this won't end up good. I mean, look at this rook. If you retreat, playing rook h8, and white is terribly tied down here. There's even, if you look at this, this, yeah, black simply wins. You cannot take on g6. And yeah, what actually are you doing here? I think Svidler's move is correct. He played knight g. No, sorry, he played queen here. Queen here. He could have played knight g5. This is what I was getting at. I'm reading my notes wrong. This is what I thought you should do. Simply exchanging off stuff. And now something like that. It's a position with opposite colored bishops, and well, okay, still all the heavy pieces on the board, but if white really triples on the g file, I really don't see black winning this in any way. Yeah, maybe also you can rook here, queen here to try queen h7. I mean, this must be enough play to draw the game, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, well, he played queen to h4. And this actually allows something. And this here, the bishop is coming here and can actually go over to g4 or h5, which is a somewhat awkward looking position, but still I believe that having g6 protected safely is something. And well, that's what the bishop is going to do. Rook g3, and here Karjakin decided to play queen e7, which is a very safe move. The computer actually just wants to play queen d7 and gives black an almost winning advantage, which is surprising. It basically claims that well, black puts the bishop on h5. This keeps the king side completely secured, and then it wants to start opening things on the queen side. Maybe that's true. I mean, the computer is giving this a very high evaluation. A lot more than a pawn for black. It's possible. White has really no attack here, and this is a big difference to the position with the earlier knight g5, as I suggested. As in this position with the bishop on c6, there's always g6 that you can attack, while here g6 is protected by this bishop on h5. Yeah, maybe black is really so much better here. It's possible. Yeah, well, queen e7 was the move played, and they both didn't have so much time. Queen trade and knight g5. Now we come to the mentioned endgame, where black enjoys an extra pawn. Okay, it's not the greatest pawn ever, but it's a pawn. And it's clearer for black what he wants to do. He wants to, at the right point, maybe play b5. And still it's a pawn. And we'll see that, in fact, in the end, this is relevant, that there are two g pawns. Okay, f3, bishop h5, b3. All this is very normal looking. And they both, well, didn't have much time. Bishop f4. I don't think that there's much to improve here. f4, however, this is a move that you need to look at, is not so good, because rook a6, yeah, you cannot cover with rook e2. It's covered the square, and here white would need to weaken himself with something like a4. Pretty terrible. So not f4, of course. Bishop f4 is better. Yeah, and a couple of moves later, we come to the 40th move. Karjakin is obviously trying to play b5 at some stage. And Svidler needed to make move 40. And he played bishop g5. And probably this is not a very precise move. But okay, now they have little time. They need to make a move. I'm not sure about the clock times. I think they both had less on the clock than the clock here do show. I mean, by far. I think only Svidler had a couple of seconds at the end. I saw that on video. Okay, bishop g5. Why is this probably not so great? Yeah, Karjakin now very quickly played the move f4. And I think this is a very good practical decision. It just gives black additional options with the check. The interesting point is, of course, that well, white needs to take with the bishop, take with the king.
Check. Check.
You're just blundering. Okay. And now rook f8. So black has given up a pawn for the moment. But he has installed this very nice pressure on f3. So white has a bit of a hard time now to move pieces. You cannot move the bishop, as this just gives up f3. You also cannot move the king. And yeah, how do you actually get your pieces to some harmony here? An interesting try. But I think Svidler does a decent job here at first. He plays rook f2. Covering the f3 pawn, rook f5, and now he immediately abandoned the e5 pawn simply to get this this passive position coordinated. I don't really think that this can be really bad. The computer doesn't like it, but I think this is a very understandable move, and I still think white has very decent chances to draw this. Yeah, this seems fairly normal. But instead of bishop f4, I actually have a suggestion. What about the idea to play a3 in this position? Just look at this position from a structural point of view. White is covering on f3. Yeah, this weakness is covered. And black cannot at the moment enter with the rook. This is covered, this is covered, this is covered. So you have somewhat of a fortress. Yeah, it's not, yeah, not an impeccable fortress, but black needs some time to get coordination going. For example, you cannot easily play g5 as this bishop is hanging. So you need some time to coordinate. And in the meantime, white is going to play a3 and b4, and he's attacking those pawns. Let's say black plays rook f6. Yeah, this I think is a pretty decent move. I'm going b4, and my idea is to capture and then attack the d4 pawn, possibly even with rook h4. So I think black needs to play b6 here, and then let's say bishop d2. Yeah, and I'm aware that of course black is still pressing, but I think white has made some progress. The queen side is not so easily attackable, and maybe under the right circumstances white can get counterplay against those pawns that are all on dark squares. Of course, this d3 pawn might also be attacked at some stage if you imagine a position with g5, bishop g6, but this still needs to be done. I think this is a pretty decent defensive try. Black can also try this move, yeah? But again, I'm playing b4. The point is that after all this, there is rook h4, and if white gets the d4 pawn, it's really completely okay for him. He simply breaks the space disadvantage, and this should be totally fine. Black can try a5 if you want to look at an alternative, and after that, yeah, I have the choice. I can play b5. Not sure about that, but yeah, maybe I can even do that, and just claim that this is okay because I can always attack those pawns. White is worse, clearly, but I think you have decent chances to hold it. Yeah, Svidler played bishop f4. He didn't touch anything on the queen side. Rook f5, and bishop to b8. I'm not sure if this is a good idea, but it's tricky to analyze this endgame. I tried, but it's very hard to get to a conclusion. There are some things that I can say pretty definitely about it, but at some points I'm not sure about the definitive evaluation. Rook e6 played here. Yeah, okay, black wants to enter here. Rook h4, going for a possible rook trade. Yeah, note that if you return, there is this move which is very uncomfortable. Yeah, rook h4 and rook e3. 4, a6. Yeah, and I think now the next move that Svidler is playing is I think should lose, really. I'm not 100% sure if he can really still save himself, but he played bishop d6. I guess maybe bishop a7 is a bit tougher, but this definitely should lose. But Karjakin is not playing the most precise continuation. He took here. King e6, I think, is winning relatively quickly even. What is White's move now? I don't really see anything anything great. If you consider that okay, the bishop is just attacked where it is, where should it go? If you play the bishop somewhere where you don't attack anything like that, okay, here I can even attack you, but let's say all the way to b8, then yeah, black can even push b5 here, or after that you can just cover with b6 and continue with g5. I think this, something like that, for example, just leads to a position which is quite comparable to the game, but where I'm going to take here without losing anything in the center. I think it's just a bit more precise. If you look at the game, yeah, we see that he gave up on the c5 pawn.
Check.
To get to this position, and here I'm not sure if black is winning. I mean, maybe he is, but I wouldn't be 100% sure about that. This all seems quite logical to me. White gets the king over.
Check.
Now king e5. Yeah, around here we can, yeah, or let's say around here it's very tough to decide which type of endgame both sides should aim for. Especially rook takes f3 is a question each move. Is this opposite colored bishop's endgame winning or not? This is the important question to address. In fact, if we look at this here, king e5, rook g2, king f4. We came to this position. And here Svidler played rook to e8. And the question is, at least in my book, what about rook e1? If you stay on the first rank to just defend, yeah, in a way, passively, is it possible for black to win this? Yeah, I'm not sure, really. It's not so much at the moment about the two pawns, the extra pawn, but this advanced pawn which is supported by the king. If you look at, let's say, g4, bishop e5 check, king back, bishop g3. Yeah, I'm not so sure if this is winning. Maybe it is. It looks very good for black, but it seems like a relatively tough defense. And there are also other possibilities. For example, if we look at this just for argument's sake, this is not completely forced. I'm just trying to illustrate some ideas. Yeah, tending to enter.
Check.
As mentioned, this is not forced. I'm just trying to
check.
To look at this endgame. What happens if we actually get this trade? I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is a draw. As weird as it sounds, but I don't see how black is going to promote the g-pawn with his king here. This, I think king and bishop should be able to stop the g-pawn from just queening. And if you can manage that, then you will draw. Because, well, what's black's possible plan then? He can switch the king over to the queen side. But this will be a very easy draw. I can show you that for instance. Okay, white can take on g7. But that's not the point, really. Let's just look at the general idea. If black runs over, then white is going to, with his king alone, stop the g-pawns. And he can just put something like that on the board. Yeah, and this is just completely dead. The queen side is completely blocked, and I'm just staying forever with my king. It's a completely dead draw. And yeah, there are some drawing chances here, mostly connected with the rook trade. In the game, let's look at the game. We are here, and here he went to e8. Yeah, and I'm not sure that after that it is still possible to save, because now the rook is not helping in defense on the first rank, as passive as it looks. And after this, bishop f5, the g-pawn will definitely start to run. Svidler was basing his defense on one specific idea. He played rook g8, g6, and rook g7. Yeah, and this is an understandable idea, of course, as at first sight you might think, okay, I'm going to trade rooks now. Huh? This is nice. In fact, if black now trades, we will get to an endgame which is very similar to the one I showed before. This is, in fact, I still believe, a draw. It's quite the same. Even with this, at first you think, okay, black's king is so active, but there's this move. And white will definitely still be able to go over to stop the g-pawn. But look at this position. Is this the only move? If you want, you can now try to do a calculation exercise. What else could black do in this position? Yeah, obviously you're not going to calculate it in 5 seconds, but just for it's very tough to even try to calculate what Karjakin now did, and amazingly did. I mean, very great effort. But what you need to think about, and definitely should think about, is to take on d4. And this is what Karjakin did after 15 minutes of calculation. And this move indeed wins by force. It's just a flat out win. Quite amazing. Takes. And now b6. The very important point that white cannot immediately get to the pawn and take it. Yeah, and the g pawn here is just too strong. It's just like that. Black is going to promote the g pawn, and what Svidler now is playing is the absolute toughest defense. He played king c3, which actually threatens king d2. Yeah, to go over and stop the pawn with the king. Black must play king e3, rook b7. Yeah, and now it's a matter of really each move counts. g4, rook takes, g3, and the rook is of course returning. It must do something about the pawn. And now the second g pawn is coming. Yeah, necessary. Yeah, white has got some pawns on his own. Yeah, and it's still a race. And as I noted, there is a relevance to the second g pawn. Look at the g pawn. It's now the winner at the end. Isn't white going to promote as well? Yeah, he is.
Check.
But black is the first to check, and it's a forced win now. White cannot go here. You simply win the queen. So you must go here.
Check.
And after queen e3 check, here Svidler resigned, or not, he didn't, sorry, he played king c4 still, which is the only move, of course. If you go here, there's
check.
bishop e6,
check.
And queen g3 winning the queen. Yeah, he went here,
check.
And bishop e6 it's almost the same. Yeah, now you need to go over here,
check.
And will lose the queen as well. So it's really, it's almost like a study. After rook d4, this is the absolute best line, and black is just winning because he at the end is able to check first, and with this bishop is able to always win the queen by force. Quite amazing, and a really great calculation effort by Karjakin. He probably had seen it till the end. I mean, this is like 18 moves. It's not bad. Not bad. So the first win for Karjakin in this tournament, and this brings both players on -1, and well, with only 6 rounds to play, it does not look like they get anywhere. But okay, Karjakin has at least scored a win, which is very good for him, obviously. Playing 8 rounds and no win would have been very frustrating. Yeah, an interesting endgame, which I couldn't really analyze to a complete conclusion, also due to time restraints for the video and for the analysis part of it. It's also interesting for players this game of flank openings to note Svidler's new idea here with the quick e4. A very good defensive effort, first by Karjakin, who set up a good defense and then managed to take over the initiative with good play with f4. Probably there's still a draw in there somewhere for white, but it was tricky to do with limited time. Alright, thanks for watching.